There we go. Hi, everybody. Chris Promasio here, Director of the International Surf Therapy Organization, a 501c3 nonprofit. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're continuing our series of discussions around the first ever academic journal dedicated to surf therapy research in the Global Journal of Psychology Practice, Community Psychology Practice, a special issue surf therapy around the globe. Isto, which most of you know, was founded at the end of 2017 in Cape Town, South Africa, with 16 people, and we're currently headquartered in the South Bay of Los Angeles, California. We're all practitioners of surf therapy. We advocate for the sector by bringing all of you together, surfers, clinicians, researchers, students, professors, sharing best practices, collecting quality research, and building practical communication tools. Today, we're working with over 50 surf therapy organizations, and last year we had the honor of hosting 250 people. So a bit of a giant leap from 2017 and 16 of us a mere 3 years ago. We've got people from all over the world, and we're really stoked that you're here today. So that's a lot of me. As I mentioned prior, our guest speakers, Matt, Joel, Grace, Teresa, if she jumps on here, and Matisse, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So I'm going to pass it on to Matt.
Hey, everybody. Can I also share my screen, Chris? If I can. Thanks for joining. These are very loosely based on our peer-reviewed journal articles, and kudos to the group that made that happen. That was amazing. Chris mentioned a second ago that we are a 501c3. That's American for a registered legal entity, a nonprofit. And why that's important is the paper that we're loosely framing our discussion on is kind of what is Isto, what's the framework for working together, how do we come together, which is what I'm going to talk about, but hopefully only a little bit about history. And then the rest of us are going to talk about really what we're doing now, and then how we're going to structure ourselves going forward. So no hard decisions are going to be made, but really we're a coalition. So while we have this independent entity, it's really here just to serve the sector and just to bring these programs together. So whatever irks for the majority of us is probably how we're going to strive to be structured going forward and make decisions. And we want you guys to weigh in. I think if you really want to know what I think or my experience, the paper's there. Thanks to some of the research crew. I know Joel, Jamie, Tim, Phil, a few people actually weighed in and their quotes on this paper and some of their feedback, not necessarily quoted by name because some people didn't want that. Let me see if I could share my screen. Share. So, very, I guess, high level, and you don't have to read any of this, but I don't know, 4 years ago, Tim, who on my screen is down there, and I and Elizabeth and a few other people at Waves for Change, we're starting to collect data down in the Global South. And what we really wanted to do was see how we were doing compared to other programs and what they were doing that we could steal from and how we could collaborate with other surf therapy programs. You've all probably experienced this when you go talk to bigger funders or people not in the surfing world. They're like, surf therapy, and they kind of laugh at first. And then they're like, no, really, other people do this. It works. And so we were hoping to add a little more evidence around the sector and find some kind of peer-reviewed research, things that kind of the stodgier field of the bigger international foundations would say, hey, you know, we can point to this and these guys are okay because other people have validated it. So since we were a small program at the time, and still kind of are, what we did is we needed a framework that would encourage people to come work with us, but that we didn't necessarily had to be viewed as the leaders because we didn't consider ourselves leaders in this sector by any means, and definitely not at the cutting edge of research. And so if you could see my screen, what you're probably seeing is collective impact. And that's a framework that we decided to use. And it's really just about bringing a diverse group of stakeholders together to achieve a common goal. And our first attempt at this, and you'll see the 5 conditions. I think they're fairly common across most coalition-backed activities, except for the bottom one, backbone support. We actually managed to raise funding so that our program could kind of support the first sector meeting, and that was about it in the beginning. And so what we did was we looked at these phases that hopefully you're seeing, and we said, you know, phase 1, initiate action. All we really want to do is figure out who's doing stuff in this space and invite them to Cape Town to tell us how it's going and see if there are opportunities for us to learn from each other. And so what we actually did is we reached out to, I want to say 50 or 60, what I found online surf therapy programs, friends of friends, or funders who knew people, and one agreed to come. So first attempt was kind of a miss, and it was in the middle of the screen, you'll see the WAVE project. Waves for Change obviously also came, but we kind of struggled to get anyone else to take us seriously. And so we ran a similar initiative, but just generally for sport for development programs, which is a great test for us because we got the attention of like the UNICEFs, the Comic Reliefs, and other kind of action sport foundations, some yoga, some actually rally car driving. And we did the whole, here's how we frame it, here are the outputs and outcomes. So we had something we could point to, and that's when we called kind of Chris and her program and Joel and his program and about, 24 others. And the kind of table stakes to play were, are you collecting data and are you interested in sharing what you're finding with other programs? That was it. If you're willing to do that, you could come to the first surf therapy sector workshop. And so you'll see, hopefully on the side, outside of your screen, a map of some of the programs that actually talked to us and the people on this call. And in the middle, the ones that actually came and brought together what they know and where they want to head. And there was a lot of interesting debates and discussions. It was a small group. And so we used that collective impact framework to come up with, and this is where I'll hand off to Joel in 1 second, kind of all we want to do is exactly what Chris said, just a little less slick at the time. So we're just like, we want to grow surf therapy, we want to be its advocate, and we want to help people understand the impact. And at the time, we also want to help people connect with equipment. And at the time, that could be funding, or that could be actual boards and other things. And so you'll see 2 of our targets there. And one of the cool things that came out is we actually had targets. We had the working group. As Chris mentioned earlier, we had people kind of spearheading different research. And I think the biggest thing was we'd broken down a lot of barriers. So we had several surf therapy programs that weren't necessarily the biggest fans of each other because it gets a little crowded in some spaces. But I think when you get really cool people in a room together, all of that disappears. And people were very open to moving forward. People were also very strongly opinionated. And so we had to figure out how we make decisions, where we want to head, and how to keep it going beyond just a 1-week meeting once a year. And so that kind of takes us midway through 2017. And as you guys know, we had several other conferences. And since then, we've kind of shifted from this very loose federation to what you see as Chris as our fearless leader there. A board that really just is required for US nonprofits, but hopefully we'll keep doing some leadership things. And then kind of a trial and error developing set of outputs and working groups. And I don't want to over complicate it or make it sound like it was something much more audacious than it was in the beginning. It was really just these few NGOs who were willing to work together, who felt very strongly about surf therapy, and they had their own programs. And it slowly snowballed from there. And you'll recognize some of the programs that started with us aren't kind of full-time running with us, and some are, but we're huge now, we're much bigger. And so for those of you who only joined in the past 2 years, I think this should give you a baseline of why we operate like we do today. I don't know if it's the best way. You'll see in the paper some of the challenges of collective impact, and we're not necessarily pure collective impact by any means now, but that should give you a baseline as to how we're structured and why we did it that way. And we could decide as a group if that's how we want to work moving forward, if we want to more formalize and be more of a structured and targeted group. It's totally up to us. I can say, I guess I'll say the last thing. This wasn't fully agreed upon in the beginning. We had everything from we should be a trade group, we should be kind of a certification group that's more exclusionary, like if you don't meet that criteria, you're out. We should be something that kind of endorses particular programs or rates them. So we kind of worked all the way across the board. So don't feel beholden to this one structure. I will say it's what we did and it's working and we're moving forward with it. But Isto is going to have to be what the programs involved want it to be. And we've moved just beyond supporting individual programs. So I'm going to let Joel talk about some of the successes from the kind of end of the first going into the second workshop. And then hopefully the people who are even newer to the group can talk about what we did from there. And if there are any questions, dump them in the side, please. And I'm happy to chat away.
Matt, you nailed it. Well done, mate. So if you could stop your share, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we've just heard a really great explanation of how it all came together, the real vision and mission behind it. Now, my role, as Matt talked about and Chris mentioned earlier, is to really share with you guys what that was like as a founding member, one of the 8 organizations that we've just seen in the middle that came from around the world to found Isto. Now, the whole process of founding Isto in itself, a lot of us would have a bit of a laugh about how we came up with the name, and there was a lot of back and forth, and there was like, well, we don't agree. But I think the best part about this is we had representation from many different sectors and many different incredible people from all around the world. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is the thing that Matt just shared around some people said no. Some people were a little bit concerned about, oh, what does this actually involve? And from my point of view, I think that it's really important always that I think that we actually coined this quite well, go far, go together with Isto. And if we don't share widely, share boldly, and actually be unforgivingly like open about our programs, that's where we start to be protective and feel like we can't show people our cards. And I know that a lot of people that regardless of whether it was 17, 18, 19 or 20 who have come and got involved in Isto Fold, there is that apprehension. There is that concern of, hang on, how's this going to be? What's going to happen with my information, my data, my research? Like, am I going to be bearing all? But what I can share with you from the very start is that the more you share, the more you get out of it. And the more you get involved, the more you get out of it. And I think we're all guilty of going, you know what, I haven't been able to engage as much as I want to over the last 3, 2, 1 years. But the important thing is that we have to find the balance where we can actually contribute together for that collective impact. And I'll get to that in a little bit and share with you guys how we got on. But you would have seen on the Isto website the declaration. And what I'll do is I was actually tried to link you just there, but I had a challenge getting there from my computer this morning. But if you could just drop in the link to the declaration, Chris, that'd be great, to the chat. Now, that declaration is something that we all came together and we said, okay, we all believe and love surf therapy. We know that it works, but we need to ensure that other people do the same around the world, because we've all heard the analogy of, oh, you're just a surfer, you just want to go surfing, you're what a piss take. This whole surf therapy thing is just a G up. You know, that is something that we get a lot in Australia, and Australians take the piss a lot. And so we actually copped a lot of shit. And at the end of the day, it's our role to justify the significance of surf therapy and the impact that that's having, so that we can make that wave ripple out into the world. The ripples that we can create in a very small way can create massive waves over other sides of the Pacific Ocean, for example. But it's about starting small. And this movement of Isto started very small. And look at the incredible organization that Chris is now leading from the US, with you guys all the way around the world doing really cool stuff. The snaps coming in from Ballina and New South Wales and Wavewise. So look, guys, this is not a us talking to you. As Matt said, we want you guys to throw in ideas, questions, comments into the chat, even get those emotions and reactions happening on the chat. But the first things first, I always love to do a check-in. I just want you guys to throw in one word into the chat around what your emotion is at the moment. You personally, at the moment, with COVID, with everything that's been going on, what is the emotion that you're feeling? And we'll just be able to read that as we're going through. Now, I'd love to sort of share with you what that declaration has actually allowed us to do since. Now, in 2018, we were back in South Africa, really excited to see everyone again. And what that allowed us to do is meet in J-Bay while the J-Bay contest was on, the WSL was on. And we were able to get together. Still stoked. I love that. We were able to get together and we were basically working out how we can work in with professional surfers, and the declaration really allowed us to do that, with some massive support from players like Jamie and from Carly and from the likes of a lot of other people that played into that declaration that we built and wrote. But now we have a document that we can turn to and we can go, look at this. This is what we're all about. This is our 5-year plan. And the biggest message of all of that is like basically allowing surf therapy to become common practice, and ensuring that in 5 years, it's a normal part of prescription by GPs all around the world. There's already France Spirits, the UK with Wave Project, all that stuff's already happening. And well done for leading the way on that, guys. But we have so much further to go for all of us to actually take part and play our part in sharing surf therapy in a much broader sense. So we're getting incredible words coming through. Swamped, excited, challenge, radiance, excited. I love this, guys, because you guys can start to feel the energy from other people without having to feel like we're stuck behind a screen. Now, the echo chamber of Isto is something that I want to really talk about because I, for one, thought that we were far more alone than we actually were. I didn't know about these other organizations around the world until I got involved in ISTO to a degree. I knew that Waves for Change were killing it. Ocean Therapy was, should I say, Ocean Therapy, Jimmy Miller was doing amazing stuff over in the US. But I didn't know the breadth and the width of all of you incredible people and the programs you're running until I came and got involved in that. And Waves of Wellness is the organization that I'm from and represent. And we are a very small part of ISTO, but it's amazing to see the growth over those 3 years, which we're talking about today. Now, the echo chamber that I talk about is that if you are alone and you feel like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing here, once getting involved in this though, and once sharing boldly and widely, that's where you realize, oh shit, yeah, like this is me, this is my jam, this is my people. But it's also what I'm saying and what I'm doing is actually supported by other people experiencing the same thing in other places. And that's the collective impact and the research that Jamie has done a great job of doing from the UK heading up around us all collecting that data to feed into that common pot. Now, there's a lot of people that have collected over the last 3 years, and we've got a bit of work to do to actually publishing that or even just talking about the data points that have plotted. But what I have really enjoyed to see is everyone's gone, yeah, yeah, me too. And the amount of stoke and excitement around the world is literally rippling. And I love that. I think it's a really, really positive thing to see the growth and the expansion of surf therapy. Our job as the surf therapy practitioners is to literally sing this stuff from the cliff tops, to tell the world that surf therapy is a thing. Second of all, that it fucking works and it's incredible because surf therapy is powerful. It changes lives, and better still, it saves lives. Ben shared an incredible story last year in US about how surf therapy did save his life. And the fact is that we have all worked with people from all around the world whose lives have been saved and changed from surf therapy. And I think that you need to give yourself a pat on the back, which you don't give yourselves enough of, to say that those lives are here because of what we've been able to create using what we love and what we're so passionate about, being surfing as therapy, surf therapy. So for me, look, there's a little segue here that you would have seen in the WhatsApp chat that Chris challenged me to wear my budgie smugglers if I actually raised $1,000. And I'm really embarrassed to say that we actually raised $1,000 since then. And I'm a man of my word. I'm a bit embarrassed to do this, but I'm just going to show you that I held up my end of the bargain, all right? So that's that. My budgie smugglers are on. That's all you're going to see. I'm really sorry for those people watching this recording. You're going to be like, what was that? But in Australia, they're called budgie smugglers because they smuggle your budgie. Anyway, that's a bit of a segue. But look, guys, that is all about mental health and awareness, and that's about changing lives, and it's about awareness. So I've been doing this to raise awareness, and every one of you are raising awareness in your own ways, in your own organizations, creating some really positive waves, which is really cool. Now, I'd love to talk about the way up between investing in Isto and then investing in your own organization. We all know that if you take your foot off the gas, then things are going to start to fall off the walls at your own organization. But we need to find that balance. And the balance is around working on us and working on the collective. Because as we work on the collective, we're lifting the bar of surf therapy all around the world. And there are people who have been incredibly grateful to get the support and mentorship from all of us when we're able to give that. So what I would urge you, all being members of ISTO, is to give back, to work with people in your sectors, in your expertise, to help them level up. And leveling up is a big thing that what we do at Waves of Wellness about, okay, this is where we are, this is where we want to be. How do we get there? And what do we need to do in this section to actually level up? And so if I can really wrap that up by saying, think about how you can support people in the sector. Think about what you can do just to lift the bar for those people around you. collaborations is something that is really powerful in doing that. And if we collaborate with the like-minded organizations around us, Surf Therapy Australia is something that we coined last year, and we've had a group of people in Australia, all surf therapy orgs, getting together. Hello, New Zealand. We're going to be looping you guys in as well with Chris and everyone over there. And Pana, look, I tell you what, you guys are going to be a part of that very shortly. But the idea is collaborate. There's lots of dancing going on there. I love that. Lots of good vibes coming in by video. Look, at the end of the day, the importance is that we all work together, and that collaboration in Australia, obviously just in the sector here, is a really good example of that. And through that, we've been able to talk and share experiences and even grants and how we've gone about doing things with other people in the sector in our area so that they can go and do things. Chris asked me to mention a little bit about the partnership we have with Movember. The Movember Foundation, Growing Moustache, obviously November is in a couple of days, and Movember have supported Waves of Wellness for the last 4 years. And they're actually investing in us recently to through $750,000 over the next 3 years. And the reason being is that we've developed that relationship and that rapport over such a long time, but they live and breathe what we're all about. And so if you guys find the right partnerships and you collaborate with the right people and bring yourselves alongside of, I call it the tugboat analogy and the ship. So the tugboat comes alongside of the ship and can help steer that, but they can also work so closely together to create real positive change. And so that Movember opportunity is not just about the money. It's about the reach. It's about the exposure. It's about the media opportunities that we've had. And then it's about the eyes that connect with the work that we're doing, that then go, oh my God, I need that in my life. I'm struggling. My mental health is really challenged right now. And I think that across the world, mental ill health has been more challenging than it has ever been right now because of COVID. Give me a reaction with a thumbs up whether you find that your mental health has actually deteriorated over the last 3 to 6 months. I would say that majority of us have. Now, there you go. There's a shitload of thumbs coming in. And I tell you what, this is the reason why we need to ensure that we are looking out for each other, but also singing about what we're doing so much, because there are so many people in our communities that need this surf therapy, who don't want to go into the hospital environment, who don't want to get the community health support, who are just like, nah, that's not me. But surfing, oh, yeah, I'll do that. Like, surfing is an amazing way of catching these people who are struggling, whether it is through autism, through disability, through PTSD veterans, through mental health and wellbeing on a broader sense. Surf therapy can play its role in all of this. Now, I'm not going to keep shitting on for much longer, guys, because I'm going to share the mic here and my time is up. But I would really urge you guys to think, how can you support the people around you that need that help now more than ever? Over and out from me. I'm going to hand over to Grace.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Grace. I work with IndoJax in North Carolina. We do a bunch of different surf therapy programs for different sectors, autism, wounded warriors, blind kids. So we work with a wide variety, which I know is a bit different from a lot of the programs that are around the world. And it was really cool because when I came to J-Bay, meeting everyone, we've never done any type of actual research or data collection. We've always just been funded by local sponsors and companies, and just like that, being able to get all of that. So going to the conference, just seeing all that research, people getting grants, all that was like mind blowing for us. We had never even considered doing any of that. Unfortunately, we still haven't really moved towards that, but just knowing that it's available, hearing from everyone, like, just listening, learning, growing was really incredible. And then surfing obviously helps everyone. That was great too. I don't really know, Chris, if you want me to say anything else or. Sorry, I'm also on my phone, and I've never done Zoom on my phone before, so I'm trying to like scroll through and see when people are actually writing down.
Okay, Grace, how included did you feel as a new Isto member? And did you feel like you could contribute to any decisions? Certainly in 2018, Matt asked that question.
Okay. Yeah, it was awesome. Everyone was so welcoming. And I was also one of the people who came that wasn't in charge of my organization. I was sent as a representative. and having people actually still listen, hear my opinion. A lot of Indojax is kind of more performance based because we aren't doing research like that. So just having people listen like, oh, this is how we're able to tandem with these kids who are born without eyeballs and also have like autism. Everyone's just trying to learn who's there, which is great.
Awesome. Well, we miss you. We haven't seen Grace since 2018. So thanks so much for jumping on. I know you're in the middle of some cool stuff down there in Florida. And thank you so much. We miss you. I think Matisse is next. Hi, Matisse from Peru.
Hi everyone. I'm Matthias from Peru. I run a nonprofit called Alto Peru, and we've been using surf therapy for over 10 years maybe, but we weren't aware that there were more like surf therapy programs around the world. The first like partner that we found was Wait for Change, and yeah, it was like really exciting to like realize that it's happening all around the world. So we reached Wait for Change. We had some calls, and then they invited us to Cape Town. We learned a lot from them, and we learned a lot like from different organizations from all around the world actually. And then that was like the initial connection for us to like realize that we're all in the same surfboard. So yeah, last year I had the luck to be present and like attend to a Isto conference, and it was amazing because it was like a dream came true. It was really exciting to meet people from everywhere, like and all of us like we were doing kind of the same things. So it's really exciting, and we are learning a lot from like the collective impact model and the whole idea of sharing information and learnings and experiences. So yeah, we've been doing it for over 10 years, but the last 3 years maybe it's been like hectic. Like it has changed a lot, and I think it's thanks to all this movement, because we now have like more information, more knowledge, and we are measuring the impact also with the same evaluation tools, and like asking for help and receiving help and feedback. So that's been like a big change for us. Matt, you're asking me something, right?
Yeah, I guess for those who aren't online, just I think one thing we were aware of when the first 2 years of Isto is the map is very white surfer northern hemisphere. So it's like California and the East Coast, Europe, and then Australia, New Zealand. Yeah. We really struggled, or we were challenged on like, are we focusing up on social justice and inclusion, especially for low and medium income countries and people who aren't native English speakers or can't necessarily afford to fly all the way to these places or take time off. So just, I think Chris is doing an awesome job. Not Chris, that Isto's doing a much better job of doing that now, but your thoughts on how it could be done better, or how you felt, how hard it was for you to join?
Yeah, luckily I understand, like, even if you speak fast, I can understand like most of the things you say. But yeah, I think that's, I hope like it's gonna be like a process, right? And hopefully for the next Isto conference, we will have like, I don't know if like a translation system or like some Spanish speakers or French speakers or whatever. Like, I think diversity is like, is going to be like important, right? I think it's super important. And actually, I remember in the last conference in California, I was translating a lot to Mayra, who is from Argentina. And also in South Africa, I was like the translator, because it's hard to miss the information because it's not in your language, right? And also it's hard to explain your thoughts. For me, I feel like I'm limited right now. I can't like say exactly what I want. I don't have the right words, but I know you can understand like the main idea of what I'm saying. So yeah, I think it would be like the next step maybe in like that's gonna happen. I have like, I'm sure about it because of the team of people that we're involved in this, and so I also would love to commit to help to bring more people like Spanish speakers, and also I don't know, like this is a collective, so we have to add value, and yeah, that's super important.
I love that segue, because we are having an all Spanish speaking session at this year's symposium, and I am working on a third party closed captioning. So from my mouth to the universe's world, that will be in place. It's very difficult to get live interpretations. So I can guarantee 100% if you watch any of the recordings from the Isto symposium this year, you will be able to put it on closed caption in 10 different languages. But the live one is where the work is. And it's very difficult and very expensive. So I'm working on that, I promise. And we definitely believe that that's something that, as an international organization, all considerations, as I mentioned in my email yesterday, at the proverbial table, we need all voices, all shapes, sizes, and we need everybody there and feeling more included. So I love that. Do we have any other questions? I think, unfortunately, Teresa couldn't make it. Do we have any other? Oh, Hannah. Yay. Jamie, yes. Jamie wants to know about your evaluation journey.
Yeah, but I think he knows everything. He's just like,
yeah, exactly,
having fun with me. But yeah, it's super important also like to like share that after we started assessing the program like properly with Jamie's support actually, we have received much more attention, and also it's much easier to get fundings. That's like one part of the story. The other part is that we can actually like see the impact with numbers, and that's like a big step for us. And I think for every program, if we measure the impact, we are sure that it's working, or we know what can we improve about what we're doing. Yeah, last year it's been a lot of work. We're still learning, but also like to see the journal. It's been that's like super like inspiring, and it helps a lot. Also, it provides like support if you go to a foundation or something, like they can see that this is happening all around the world. So yeah, it's been a journey, and Jamie, I think he's like almost in charge of a lot of our evaluation.
I'm making fun of Jamie for bringing it back to him. Joel, that was to you. Joel's going to do like a little run through. Joel, do you need a second to prep your whiteboard?
No, it's all good. If you can just make me host and I can share screen, that'd be great.
Oh, I'll just, you are able to share screen.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So what we're going to do, guys, is we've just had a bit of a conversation about what would be beneficial for you guys all on this call and how we can most benefit from the idea of being together. So what I'm going to do here is, all of you guys may not know this, but you can actually type on the screen and you can write text in. So what I want to do here is write sort of what are the challenges that you've all found over the last couple of months with what's gone on in Isto and with your surf therapy organizations, the kinds of challenges that you've come up against that you might be happy to share, and we can all start to have a conversation about that. We're then going to go over to the other side and share the ways that we can sort of rectify some of those challenges, or ways that we can work differently together during this time, which we may not have thought about. And this is an opportunity for you guys to sponge out everything that's coming out from around the sector. So first things first, grab your cursor and write in here challenges that you've been having, and then we can all see what's going on. And then on the same time, I'm going to then share the other side with the wins, tips or tricks. So this is a job for everyone. So make sure you hit the T for text button, and then you can actually type into it rather than drawing or having to write what you're doing with your cursor. All right. So if you haven't done this before, there's some people deleting what they've just done. Guys, test it out. Go on the screen on the whiteboard here. You can all write on this whiteboard. So hit the T for text button and then click on the screen on the whiteboard on the left-hand side. And then you can add and you can write those challenges. So if you can't use that, then you can also go into the text box and someone else will be able to write that for you. But at the end of the day, this is a really important opportunity for us to really learn from each other. And every time we get together like this, it's a chance for us to do so. So if you can't do it, once again, guys, just in the chat box, we can then add that over there on the right-hand side. People aren't really able to join this. Hey, Chris, are you able to join in? Just let me know whether you're able to type on that screen.
No,
Matt's
I
having
can't.
trouble with it too. Chris is having trouble. All right, well then that's not working. We mustn't have that. Oh, someone else has. Not enough time to do all the things I want to surf. Yeah, absolutely. So people want to achieve lots with surf therapy. They're not able to do that. Someone else has put research. It's quite tricky to do. Absolutely. Funding, and then people have circled it and underlined it, so there's a bit of a grant on funding. So yes, there's a challenge on funding there. I'm happy to have people speak to each of the things that pop up here. So if there's any things that have worked around funding, one of the things that have worked for Waves of Wellness is that we've been able to come alongside of organizations that really believe in what we're doing, but also that CSR, the corporate social responsibility with corporates, is something that you might not have thought about. So when it comes to the idea of how do we get people to join us, how do we get people to buy into what we're doing, then CSR is something that a lot of corporates are now considering. The HR departments need to show that they're giving back. They need to give to charity. That's a part of their, I guess, their mission. So there's ways that people can really push and lean on corporates for that. So if you haven't done that, go for it. Sponsors and brands are also people that are wanting to look good, especially in light of COVID. So there's a way that we can actually make that happen. Someone else said common measures and benchmarking against other programs, I'm guessing. Absolutely. And the COVID context that occurs in, for sure. So there's a lot of stuff here to think and talk about, guys. But if we are thinking about these challenges, even if you haven't written them on the left-hand side in the challenges column, I would like you to think about how you might rectify those, and then go on over to the right-hand side and add your feedback in here. Add something that you might suggest to that person who put that on there, some feedback, tips or tricks that might be able to manage that during this challenging time. Now, we've already seen here that group together to apply funds. Yeah, absolutely. If you can work together with other organizations to go for bigger grants, we've had conversations at Isto around that, with going for Laureus sort of funding for Mercedes-Benz. We had conversations back in South Africa. So if you have a bigger value proposition, they call it value prop when you've got enough to give back to the people that are funding you. If your value proposition is strong enough and is big enough and broad enough, then it's going to give them more of an opportunity and a reason to back you and to fund you. So if you haven't thought about that, it might be an opportunity to work with your fellow organizations around you. Does Isto have research funding? Was a great question from Michelle. I'll let you talk to that one for a second, Chris.
Hi, Michelle. We're working on that because we know that that's a big, I mean, that's our entire mission. I think what Isto has done really well is bringing people together and stressing the importance of data collection. A lot of people mentioned that, even Grace mentioned it, but I would say almost 50% of the programs that reached out to us to start working with us had not been collecting data at all. And so we have worked really hard on that side to be able to provide these communication tools and obviously data collection tools through the evaluation framework. As far as research funding, again, in order to move the needle, that's a big piece of what's missing with a lot of our programs. And I think we saw in the chat, a lot of people are looking for funding support. On the research end. So Michelle, we're working on that. And any research grants we can tap into. There's a lot of, actually right now, there's a lot of university. If you look, I would Google universities, especially local universities. And there's a big push right now, obviously for COVID responses, which all of us essentially, as far as I'm concerned, have become essential workers. As Joel mentioned earlier, COVID, certainly a world pandemic, absolutely the civil unrest has highlighted the need for mental health support. And Joel has reminded us that we need mental health support. And again, I think more of the research will help us get to a place of being considered essential workers. So research grants, there's a ton of, certainly in the US, grants based around COVID response. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so Chris, just to add to that, so I'm a doctorate in nursing practice student at Capella University. And so for my first research project that I'll be doing through Warrior Surf Foundation, I'll go through the IRB and that won't cost me anything. However, this is going to continue for the long term. And yes, I will have to, I'm going to pay for a statistician just so that when I'm ready to publish, that I publish something that's relevant and reliable and valid, because I want to publish it. But there is some funding. So that's why I asked you that question. I will also reach out to Capella University and ask if they can send me if there's some research grants to take the edge off a little bit, because after I do this first research study, sometime beginning of next year is when I'll start it. I'm going to keep that ball rolling because I'll be in the momentum, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And Michelle, can you please share with everybody what you're earning a degree in?
So my degree is a doctorate in nursing practice, and it's specializing in surf therapy. So I'm totally, that's my focus throughout the whole time. And I did hear someone earlier say they were from Cape Town, and the class that I'm in currently is on global population health. And I'm actually pulling that therapeutic surf program that's in Cape Town.
Waves for Change?
Yes, and I was thinking of reaching out to them and asking some questions that I might have as I do my paper. So I'm so
good. Well, Matt's right here to help you with that. Or Tim. Michelle and I have spoken actually a month ago, and Michelle is part of one of the newest contributors to the International Surf Therapy Organization. Michelle, welcome. And I'm really excited, obviously, for what you're earning your degree in, because now we'll have, a nurse. I don't even know how to say it correctly, but it's really exciting to have more of the fields, certainly healthcare practitioners, be focused on surf therapy. So thanks, Michelle, for all the work you're doing. They are Costa in Florida, and they are working with veterans. Also, Michelle, Warrior Surf Foundation can help you with that as well.
Yes, absolutely. I actually just went there last week and observed their clinic. I wasn't able to participate in a research project because we haven't gone through the IRB yet, the interview review board with my school, my university. So, but I was there, and they did a clinic, and it was awesome.
Nice one, Michelle. That's so cool. That's unreal. And from the chat, guys, we've seen some really cool stuff come in. Like Erin said that they've been collaborating a lot with research universities. So has Chris. And basically the partnering with universities is super powerful, and it's a great way to economically bring that research data to the forefront. And Natalie raised a really good point around the idea that can we actually have a research job board where there's actually nonprofits getting together and promoting those roles. I think just to wrap up the screen share that we talked about before, guys, that there was a couple of people wrote getting support from the Isto family. Like, amen to that. And this is where you can get that support. This is where you can realize someone else wrote realizing you're not alone. And there was even someone put a love heart next to that to support it. So guys, this is a supportive network where we can support each other. But as per Phil's comment around COVID and focusing on the need for more mental health support, we need to ensure that that support is also happening with ourselves and with each other where we can help each other out. But then speaking to the question about research, there is also much more of a greater need to address the mental health and wellbeing of our populations. Therefore, research is a much greater need right now to prove that and to get the funding that comes alongside of that. From the discussion that we've had, are there any additional questions that have come through, guys, or anything that you're thinking that you want to get clarification on? We've got 5 more minutes, which we'd love to be able to give you the most value in this call. We've already heard today, for those people that are just joining us late, around the sequential, I guess, rhythm of how Isto has come about, how we've actually founded it from really early days with surf therapy in South Africa, Waves for Change and Matt's story, and then how we're now seeing organizations come through the fold over the last few years. It's been around for almost 3 years exactly, actually. We're seeing all these beautiful photos getting shared from South Africa back in the day, but look how far we've come in 3 years. Are there any other questions that you guys have that you want to find out from us? Is there any other insights or comments that you guys would even like to make? One thing you guys will learn pretty quickly is that silence is a powerful thing, and silence is totally cool. So we're just going to sit in silence and we're going to see if anything pops up for you guys.
Well, I would like to mention one of the things that we'd like to talk about, but Kristen Walter is actually on here. And if you guys haven't had a chance to read the final article in the Global Journal, Kristen basically wrote it. I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm sorry. The co-authors wrote it. So Gregor and Phil and Gio contributed. But Kristen, do you have any thoughts about sort of where you see Isto going and how you're on mute, by the way, Dr. Walter. But do you have any quick thoughts about Isto and what you've seen from Isto and then where you see Isto going into the future? So I'm bringing this full circle.
Sure, you had to throw that in, huh, Chris?
She hates that, Dr.
Right,
Walter.
and that was a collaborative effort on that piece, including my colleague Phil on the call. So, you know, it's funny because in thinking about that piece, I was thinking about where research needs to go, but in looking at the questions today, it's almost on how we can make research accessible for people to even begin that process. And so it's interesting, you know, Isto has been fantastically supportive of getting people on board with at least looking at program evaluation and starting to collect and look at data. But it also seems like I wonder if there's a place that we could make some structural changes and offer resources available to assist people in that. And I saw that Phil had mentioned that, you know, in response to Natalie, that he was willing to help out with consultation and to discuss data. I'm always happy to do that as well. I'm a little bit of a nerd with data and things of research sort. So please, you're welcome to reach out to me as well. But I'm wondering, you know, funding's obviously an issue. And that's why I did write that collaborating with institutions and universities is a great way to go, because people need to do, you know, even theses or dissertations, and doing surf therapy work is so interesting and cool to people that it gets a lot of buy-in for their own interest to do a project that might be meaningful to them. And then you can get your data analyzed by someone trained to do so and who's kind of used to academic presentations or writing. And you they have to do the project anyway. So it can be a great way to get that research done in a very economical way. But as best as we can provide resources for people to even start the process and collect data that's meaningful to not only their program, but to the larger community, I think is just as important as what we need to go do going forward. We also need to figure out what the best way is to make it accessible for people to do, because research is its own beast and collaboration is the best way to get it done. It's a lot to take on yourself if you're running a program and trying to do data yourself. So collaborate, partner, and I will offer myself that I'm always happy to discuss, so don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Oh, you rock. Thank you for saying that, Natalie. To your point, we are revamping the website. So for 2021, we will have not just job boards specific for research, but obviously we watch social media when anybody's posting any job. Joel, I think you did a really cool campaign this year. It was like, who wants to come work at the beach and get paid? So we want to obviously become this source and continue to be this resource for everybody in the surf therapy sector. And I probably get weekly emails about are there jobs? And so our website will sort of alleviate that and take over. We're running a bit long here because it's after 1, but I just wanted to very quickly mention to everybody, and we had mentioned this actually in a couple of webinars ago, but what came out of the Global Journal, especially with the scoping review, is that each surf therapy program develops its methodology based on the population or the individual's needs. And this is valuable because while we think about Isto's future and how we organize ourselves and push the field further, we want to be population focused. Involving researchers and practitioners will be essential next steps to understanding the benefits of surf therapy better. And we all know it's a universal intervention. It doesn't matter what ails you, right? If you go surfing, you tend to feel a little bit better. But what's that look like for the populations? A child with autism versus a veteran coping with PTSD, and of course, everybody in between. So what we're looking for as far as Isto is we need people like you, everybody on this call. We're looking to help us determine what these population-focused working groups look like. We'd like to put together a strategy, and more specifically, we'll need some leaders from each of the populations. Your commitment's 1 year. You'll hold monthly meetings and you'll report back to the Isto board. I just want to throw this out to the universe and let you all think about it. The idea, though, is Joel brought this up earlier, is we're hoping some meaningful advancements in research, more rigor comes out of this, but possibly and hopefully joint grant writing by population. Anyway, I'm throwing it out there and letting you think about that. And please email back if that's something that you want to take on as a leader in your population. And I think for me, lastly, I just want to leave all of you with this thought. What do you need in order to engage with Isto? As an official contributor to Isto, without any action, it's just a state of being. And I know so many of you are stoked to be a part of this global effort, but please let us know what you need to be more engaged with us. Anybody else got some last words from our fearless speakers out there today? Thank you for Matthew, and I keep calling you Matthew, that's your name, Matt, Joel, Mattila, Kristen, thanks for jumping in. Grace, it was so good to see you. And we missed Teresa. I hope she didn't get the time wrong. Eeks. Any other thoughts from our speakers or anybody before we head out?
If anything,
everybody,
pops up.
Yeah, everybody come offline, come off your mute and say hi and bye, I guess.
If anything
Thanks, everybody.
pops up, just sing out to us and give us some, send us your questions if it pops up after the call. It's no problem to reach out at all. Sending you guys lots of love.
Thanks, everybody.
Come off mute.
Come off mute so we can say hi and bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
So good to see everybody.
Bye.
So good to see everybody. Yay. We love hearing your voices. Thank you, everybody. You.